what really grinds my gears?
What the hell is wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ryno's Rants. Boy, oh boy, social media in Vikings land has completely gone off the rails the last several days, and we're here tonight to break it all down. So, as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft, which is just over a week away now, there's more and more rumors floating around. There's this, that, the other thing, a bunch of subterfuge and smoke screens and God knows what all else. But anyway, we'll start off with the couple of smaller ones, I guess we'll put it that way. And then, of course, we all know what the big one's going to be. We'll talk about that at the end, but we want to get the other ones out of the way first and then save the main course for later on. Starting off over the weekend, might have been Friday, Dalvin Cook's agent was on a podcast someplace and basically was out there bad-mouthing the team, talking about how Dalvin Cook put up massive numbers. Nick, I'll get to him later. How Dalvin Cook was putting up massive numbers, even though the Vikings had misused Cook the last couple of years, and the team basically just being mediocre. To me, that does not sound like somebody who expects to be on this team come the first weekend in September when the regular season starts. I've maintained this for probably a month or better now. Lance and I have talked about it on the main show many times. I expect Dalvin Cook to be moved probably during the draft at some point in time. More fuel to the fire. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell had a press conference last Thursday, and that's where a lot of these firestorms kind of started from. They asked Kwesi straight out if Dalvin Cook would be on the roster this season, and Kwesi's response to it was, "Conversations are ongoing. We're trying to be solutions-oriented and always try to put the roster together within our constraints." That is hardly a ringing endorsement to the fact of Dalvin Cook being on the roster. I'd take expired gas station sushi. I don't know about that, but hey, you do you, Nick. I'm not touching gas station sushi, but also after that, per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, all options are on the table when it comes to Dalvin Cook right now, even down to the point where he could still be released if they can't find a suitable solution to the issue, I guess. Rumors have been swirling again that that the Dolphins might still be interested in him. A couple other spots I heard, there's always the Buffalo rumor that they may be interested and want to pair him with his brother. Now, I've also heard Buffalo being all in on Bijan Robinson if he happens to fall. So that could potentially be good either way for the Vikings. If Robinson's still there in the early 20s, it could be a potential trade back spot for Buffalo to move up to get him. Or if they miss out on him, then that could potentially make them jump on a day 2, day 3, whatever compensation for Cook to, so we would still get compensation during the draft. Nobody's expecting the Vikings to get a first-round pick for Dalvin Cook. That's not going to happen. My guess would be probably like a fourth rounder. If you could get a third-round contract, you take that and run. with that contract, that's what a team will offer. Doogie said he heard it was a late rounder. Yeah, I listened to that one too, Nick. So I'm guessing, yeah, 4th round is probably best we're going to be able to do. No way they were going to sign Maddie if they figured Cook was going to be back. Doc, I agree 100%. It made no sense to bring Madison back if Cook was going to be here. So, I mean, I expect Cook to be moved anytime between now and day 3 of the draft, I guess. I would prefer to get a day 2 pick for him, but, you know, that might be pushing it. If at this point in time, if you can get anything for him, you have to take it. I mean, getting a 5th or 6th round pick is better than just outright releasing him. So we'll see what happens here in the next week or so. Of course, Vikings were reporting for voluntary workouts today, and Dalvin Cook was one of the 2 that did not report. Heard the Vikings might just cut him. Yep, that's what Jeremy Fowler at ESPN had said, that it's not off the table that they might just release him. But like I said, if you can get, even if it comes down to that, if you can get a 6th or a 7th round pick for him, just so you get something, it's then it's worth it. Madison and Chandler, yep, that's what it's going to be, Anthony. It's going to be I think a running back by committee between Chandler, which by all accounts, the Vikings really like what he's bringing to the table. Madison is going to be more your power back, your short yardage type stuff. And then you've still got Kene Wangwu that you can bring in as far as gadget plays and getting him out in space with the ball in his hands, that kind of thing. They're gone. So I think, yeah, Thadir, I think so. That's it. It's going to happen. It's just when. Doc may have to settle for a pick next year, depending upon how the draft shakes out. I honestly think Buffalo, like I mentioned a little bit ago, Buffalo is that key point. I've also heard that Cincinnati might be interested because they're kind of, you know, probably moving on from Joe Mixon, and Samaje Perine, I think, was also a free agent. And so Buffalo, Miami, and Cincinnati are kind of the top 3 guys. But I guess we'll see. And, well, since Nick brought this up, we'll talk about this next. The other, I guess, not minor, but not quite as major Vikings news deal. Danielle Hunter did not report, or is not expected to report, for voluntary workouts, which, again, the key word there is voluntary. Nobody has to show up for them. You know, and when they don't, then it just kind of fuels the fire a little bit more. Hunter, on at least some of his Instagram account, has removed the Vikings stuff from there, which seems to be the trending thing when a player is pissed off about something. Hey, G-Mac, how's it going? Danielle Hunter's, his contract right this year, I think, is paying him only like $4 million, which is absolutely ludicrous for a edge rusher of his caliber. I'm not going to argue with Hunter one bit of that. And to Hunter's credit, he's taken team-friendly deals pretty much every time he's done an extension or a restructure, everything else. He would like to get paid once before, you know, he gets past the point of his prime. So I don't fault him one bit for this. And of course, word was out this week, you know, that Brian Flores wants Danielle Hunter in the fold for this defense, which, I mean, I think we all want Danielle Hunter here if things can be worked out the right way. It's just, are we going to be able to afford to give him that extension that he wants? You can get creative with the cap. You can make us, you know, do most of it as a signing bonus for this year, get his cap hit probably not a whole lot higher than what it is right now. The problem is the Vikings only have about $2 million in cap space right now. So they're still going to have to do something prior to signing their draft picks, because right now we don't even have the money to do that. Hunter to be moved for picks if they can't work out a deal, Ray. I think that is a legitimate possibility. And since you brought that up, that was kind of one of the comments that I had seen. That kind of rolls us into our the main event for the evening. Of course, the ongoing quarterback controversy. Of course, when Kwesi and O'Connell had their press conference on Thursday, there was nothing. Of course, they aren't committing to Kirk beyond this year, but they spoke specifically about planning for the future at quarterback, and that caused Vikings Twitter to absolutely go nuclear. You've got the Kirkistan Army losing their minds because how dare Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell not come out and say, we're going to sign Kirk Cousins to a 12-year fully guaranteed contract because he is going to play up until the same age as Tom Brady and still be just Granite Jaw McDreamy and all this and that, blah, 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 blah. On the other hand, then the anti-Kirks were also losing their mind, basically wetting themselves because they're planning for the future of the quarterback. That means Kirk is gone. That means Kirk is gone. Woo, 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 woo. All this and all that. And when the truth is, it's something in the middle. Kirk Cousins, 95% odds is going to be the starting quarterback for the 2023 season. Unless something drastic happens, I don't see it playing out any way different than that. Now, there's a whole lot of course, stuff floating around. The one thing, of course, the Trey Lance rumors in San Francisco just will not die. And there got more gasoline dumped on that fire today when Brock Purdy was interviewed, and he had mentioned that he could miss the entire 2023 season. He doesn't know when he's going to be back from that Tommy John surgery he had on his throwing arm. So right now that puts Trey Lance in line to reclaim the starting job in San Francisco. And of course, the Kirk Cousins and Kyle Shanahan love affair just will not die. So you have people out there, putting 2 and 2 together and getting 6 out of this whole thing. Heard that Kirk would waive the no trade clause for San Francisco. San Francisco, I'm guessing, would be one of the teams that he would do that for. The problem lies in there that San Francisco doesn't. The earliest pick they have this year is a 3rd rounder. I think they have like 3 third rounders. So you'd have to be counting on going with a, getting future picks for 2024, which means you probably would be looking at 24 to draft your quarterback, or maybe. But the only way that the Kirk to San Francisco thing makes sense, because right now, if you trade Kirk before June 1st, you're going to incur about a $38 million cap hit, $38.5 million. And right now, like I said, we've got $2 million in cap space. We can't even sign our draft picks right now. I don't see a way that we can do that. Hey, Ant, how's it going? 2024 class of quarterbacks is supposed to be good. Yeah, it is. But of course, this time last year, we were talking about how good the 2023 draft class was going to be for quarterbacks. And that's the thing with the Vikings. It's always, well, next year's a better year of quarterbacks. And then when we get to next year, it's like, well, this year it's not as good as what, next year's going to be better. Next year's going to be better. We keep kicking that can down the road to, actually get the cojones to go out and get our guy, our own franchise guy, not picking up a retread, not any of this other stuff. I see this relationship ending sour, to be honest. It very well could, Thadir, especially, if we make a splash move and go after a quarterback early. I mean, is Kurt going to be the good soldier and, mentor the guy and this, that, and the other thing? Or is he going to, get sour about it? Eric, you're right on time. We're just getting into the meat and potatoes of the whole show here. So you're right on time. The Wilfs want us to remain competitive. They want us to grab a new quarterback now and learn for your under cousins. Doc, that is the ideal situation. I don't want to go into 2024 personally without a plan at quarterback. Whether it be, just for devil's advocate on the San Francisco thing, okay, if we made a trade, they get Kirk Cousins, we get Trey Lance back, plus additional compensation. At least with Trey Lance, you have 3 more years of rookie contract control, so you can see if he's the guy, if he's not. We're past the gas station sushi portion of the show. Yeah, Oli, we passed that like gas station sushi a little while back. So, but looking at the draft, I've made no bones about my desire that we should do what it takes to get up to number 3 and get Anthony Richardson if he's still there at 3. But how will that play out? Are we going to be able to do it? Benjamin Albright, he's an NFL insider and also does beat reporting for the Broncos, said that Minnesota, he's heard Minnesota is one of the teams that is trying to move up to number 3 to trade with Arizona. Now that's where a Danielle Hunter thing kind of comes into play. If we're looking at straight draft picks, you're looking at, honestly don't know what they're going to do. If you're looking at straight draft picks and no players, you are realistically going to have to give up your first rounder this year in 2024 and 2025. Now, giving up your first rounder this year, you still get a first round pick because you're jumping up to get an Anthony Richardson, a Bryce Young, or whoever that you decide to go up there to get. Probably going to have to throw in a third or so, something else along the way too. I don't think just 3 first rounders is going to do it. Now that the interesting part becomes if you decide to put Danielle Hunter in as a part of the trade package. Arizona needs edge rushers. 3 number 1s without Hunter, absolutely. I think if you put Danielle Hunter in on that package, you could probably make a case for Arizona going for that. Now I know when I was listening to ESPN when I was at the gym tonight, they were Nick Cesario, the GM of Houston, was on and had said that they have been receiving calls about trading out of the number 2 pick. It's been pretty much a foregone conclusion by all the experts that they were going to take whichever one of Bryce Young and CJ Stroud that Carolina did not take. Now there's rumors that they're not sold on CJ Stroud, which, to be honest, I'm not either. But so there's things going on there. I don't believe that I don't know that they're in or out on it because, again, you can't believe anything that you hear right now coming out of teams because, tis the season, I guess, of the smoke screen. Of course, looking at some of the other quarterbacks that could be a possibility. There's talk about, okay, Will Levis, should he start to fall, the Vikings could trade up to get him. I'm not a fan of trading up for Will Levis, to be honest with you. The kid he's got talent, but there's a bunch of flags in there that concern me a little bit. Raymond, what's up with Za'Darius? What's going to happen with him? Honestly, I think a lot of it probably hinges on what happens with Hunter. If we trade Hunter, I think there's more of a chance that we keep Za'Darius Smith around. If Hunter stays, then I'm pretty sure that Za'Darius is gone. But anyway, with Will Levis, Ben Gessling, who is the beat writer for the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, was on Paul Allen's show, I believe it was Thursday last week. And he made the comment that he's been hearing from his insiders inside the Vikings organization that if Will Levis is there at pick 23, the Vikings would probably pass on him. So if you can believe what Gessling is saying, sounds like the Vikings are pretty much out on Will Levis, which I'm not going to lose any sleep over because honestly, I'm not sold on him either. So, but I thought that was interesting that, back at the combine, they were talking about, the rumor was how much Kevin O'Connell liked Will Levis and this, that, and the other thing, to a month later, the team being completely out on Levis. I trust Gessling. He's usually not going to report something unless there's steam behind it. He's not just going to speculate for the sake of speculating. He'd pass just for the fact that he puts mayo in his coffee. I've actually heard, Nick, that was just kind of a dare thing. It wasn't it's not something he does on a regular basis, but there's a lot, the personality quirks and everything to the side. There's a lot about Will Levis's playing style that concerns me. The guy doesn't feel pressure well. He's mobile enough to get away from it if he does sense it, but he takes way too many sacks because he doesn't have that eyes in the back of his head thing that senses the pressure coming, so he'll take unnecessary sacks. He relies way too much on his arm strength. The guy has a howitzer for an arm. Not going to argue that point one bit, but he relies too much on that arm strength and throws it a lot of times places where he shouldn't be throwing it. Ends up turning the ball over way more than he should. So, I mean, if they pick Levis, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt until he proves me wrong. But I guess he's probably fallen to fourth on the top four guys, maybe even to fifth with this next guy. Of course, and Pantheon brought this guy up a little bit earlier, Hendon Hooker. The Vikings have done a ton of research on Hendon Hooker, the way it's from all accounts. Darren Doogie Wolfson has talked about this multiple times when he's been on Purple Daily, Mackey and Judd, that the Vikings have done more research on quarterbacks this year than any year that he can remember. And he's been am I back now, Nick? Hopefully I'm not still frozen here, but we'll keep rolling. Hopefully it's good. But according to Wolfson, they have done a ton of work on Hendon Hooker. They even going back to when Hooker was at Virginia Tech, they were talking to former players, teammates, coaches, all this other stuff. They have done a ton of work on this kid. Of course, the concerns with Hooker, everybody brings up the fact he's 25 years old. I'm not concerned about the age. I'm really not. The ACL injury that he sustained late in the season last year is a bit concerning. Hooker would not be ready to start the season. Whether he would be ready at all during the 2023 season, I don't know. Now, if Kirk is here, it's irrelevant. He's got, Hooker's got a year to sit behind Kirk and learn the offense and work with O'Connell and get up to speed, because there's a lot of stuff he's going to need to work on. Tennessee ran a quirky offense. It was basically a one read type stuff. He knew where he was supposed to be going with the ball before he threw it, that kind of thing. So there's more about going through progressions and everything else that Hooker would have to work on. by all accounts, he's a very smart kid, so I think he can figure it out. Nick, yeah, Joe Burrow was 24 when he was drafted. Yeah, nobody talks about that. I mean, Burrow is probably, my personal opinion, Burrow's the second best quarterback in the NFL right now. I take Patrick Mahomes first. I take Joe Burrow second. Then I go Josh Allen third. Yeah, nobody talks about, and that's the thing with, if Hooker pans out, nobody's going to care where he was drafted, how old he was when he got drafted, any of that kind of stuff. The only way that's ever going to be a problem is, if he flames out and doesn't turn out into anything. But right now, Vegas is putting the Vikings as the favorite to land Hendon Hooker. We are at plus 360 as of Monday afternoon. Now there again, whether it's we take him in the first round, whether we trade back, get him in the second round, remains to be seen. I think, especially the way Kwesi thinks with his Moneyball type approach and stuff like that. If they plan on taking Hooker, I think they're going to want to take him in the first round just so they get that fifth-year option. GMAC, whether he can run a complex offense is the question. Agree completely. From what I've seen, I think he probably can. It's going to take a little bit of time to get him up to speed on it, but time would tell on that, I guess. But anyway, since Nick has been begging for it the entire night since we started here, and I'm usually try to keep these shows under 30 minutes. It's going to go a little more than that because we're already at 30 minutes. Hooker worked out with Washington today, and AR worked out with Tennessee. Yeah, Richardson's not getting out of the top 10, I don't think. I don't think there's any way possible that happens. Hooker could sneak into the top 20. Doc, I just want to get our guy. We wasted plenty of early round picks in other positions. We absolutely did. I mean, look at back in the, 2016 draft, 25th, whatever it was, where we had 3 first round picks. We had Cordero Patterson. We had, who were the other two? Xavier Rhodes and, defensive lineman. I can't think of his name right now, but none of those guys. I mean, Rhodes was good for a year or two. Patterson was good at kicks and everything else. But, it's not going to cripple the franchise like everybody's talking about. Sharif Floyd, thank you. It's not going to cripple the franchise like everybody says it's going to if we trade 3 number 1 picks to go up and get it. We have blown so many number 1 picks over the years. Jeff Gladney was another one, rest in peace. So many of the guys that Spielman's picked, we didn't even go in the tank when we traded all that crap in the Herschel Walker trade. So giving up those draft picks is not going to cripple the franchise to a point where we're going to be the Houston Texans for 5 years. So I think it's worth it. I want to see the Vikings make a splash. I want to see we traded more than that for Herschel. We absolutely did. I want to see the O'Connell and Kwesi go get their guy, whoever it is, whether it's, if Bryce Young doesn't go first overall and he falls to third, go get Bryce Young. CJ Stroud, I'm not sold on, but if the team is, so be it. Anthony Richardson, if he's there, go get him. If you don't get those guys and you think Hendon Hooker is going to be your guy, do what you need to do at the tail end of the first round to get him. Don't get too cute. Try moving back too many times and then somebody leapfrogs you and takes him ahead of you, and then you're stuck with it. Another later round guy, DTR out of UCLA, is a guy that the Vikings seem to like. That's the thing, GMAC. We hired Kevin O'Connell to be an offensive-minded head coach who could identify and mold the future at the quarterback position. But the thing that is now, okay, we have him here for a year now, and now all of a sudden half of the fan base, it's not half, but it's the, it's that Kyrgyzstan army and those guys, especially that don't want to see the Vikings move on from Kirk. They all of a sudden no longer trust KOC or Kwesi to make the right decisions after 1 year where we went 13-4. I mean, I even saw it as so much after that press conference on Thursday. There was a bunch of people on Twitter that were saying they are absolutely fucking done with KOC and Kwesi. They both need to be fired and we need to start over. I don't know how you can make a comment like that and expect to be taken seriously, because it's just absolutely stupid. Holton Allers, he's a true Viking. He's a guy that I think could be a late round pick at the very least, or an undrafted free agent just to bring him in and try him out. I'd like to see it. Who said that? There was a bunch of people. And that will roll us into my final topic of the night. A certain member of Vikings Twitter, I won't mention his name, but it rhymes with Mick Smosa, absolutely got his lunch handed to him this weekend on Twitter. He made a comment that set to the point of the Vikings would be absolutely idiotic to move on from Kirk Cousins, and to the point because Kirk wasn't the problem, and we have so many other open or positions of need, which that part I don't necessarily argue with, that we have many positions of need, but he said we have no quality wide receivers beyond Justin Jefferson, and we have no quality cornerbacks beyond Byron Murphy. The first one to respond to that was one KJ Osborne, who sent the Patrick Star from SpongeBob meme of taking notes. He's like, and Osborne asked him, "Okay, Rick, just curious, what do you consider being a quality wide receiver?" Back and forth, and Osborne basically smacked him upside the head with a 2x4. And then, not to be outdone, Vikings Twitter caught the KJ Osborne comment and retweeted it, so they got in on the action. And then once Vikings Twitter caught it, then the defensive side of the ball jumped in. The KJ hate is completely unfounded. Dave, I agree. Can KJ Osborne be a legit number 2 wide receiver? I don't know. He's a very good wide receiver 3. In that mold of a Jake Reed from back in the 3 deep days. Basically with that, Badass Stein. Thanks, Doc. Yeah, it's I drink left-handed, so I don't get to show the cool logo and stuff on there all the time. But it's from a place called Vikings Culture. I found it on Amazon. They're not paying me to promote their stuff, but it's really cool. It's actually made out of real horn. And I got this, and I got a shot glass and a bottle opener, all for, it was like a 3-pack for like 20 some bucks, $30, whatever it was. But yeah, anyway, so then not to be outdone, Caleb Evans joins in on the fun, and Caleb Evans is a guy who has never shied away from ripping it up with quote unquote fans on Twitter. So he got in on the action, started ripping said individual a new one. Then, not to be outdone, Josh Metellus jumped in and also made multiple comments about it. And then Brian Asamoah even got in on the fun. Now, he was over in Africa all of last week promoting the NFL for, across the world or whatever. And basically, once he got back on Twitter and whatever else, he jumped in on the fun. So wasn't a good week for the guy who claims to be an insider and all this, that, and the other stuff. And then he kept on doubling down on a lot of the things. Now, that's either an incredibly stupid move, or it's a very aggressive and possibly genius way to get your name out there and drive traffic to your Twitter page, to your podcast, everything else, because everybody's talking about it. I mean, I'm spending 5-10 minutes on the whole situation here. I mean, I don't interact with the guy that much because his takes are a little bit out there for me. And myself personally, I'm not going to go out there and just say stupid shit to get hits, to get likes, to whatever else. I want you guys to watch this show, the main Vikings Uncensored show, Brunswick's Best Stuff, because you like what our takes are, and because we speak our minds and be reasonable and be objective about all this stuff. I don't want to go out there and just be spouting this off the wall BS just to get clicks and likes and all that other stuff. And if that doesn't get us the subscriber count and everything else that some of these other places do, so be it. I mean, being a heel does get the clicks. It absolutely does, Doc. But like I said, when Lance and I started this, we wanted to be objective. We wanted to be real. We wanted to be honest with you guys. And that's the way we want to keep this up. Now, this show, I kind of dive into a little bit more of that reckless type talk and the rumors and things like that, just because it's good conversation and it reasonable. We're football fans, no room for reasonable. Like, you're not wrong, G-Mac. You're not at all. Where else can you hear Anthony Richardson 30 times a show? Anthony, if we draft Richardson, you're going to hear it a lot more than 30 times a show. I'll tell you that much now. Right now, like I said, I'm all in on Anthony Richardson. I know a lot of people don't see the, but to me, that there is so much potential there. This guy is an athletic freak. He's got a lot to work on, no doubt. His accuracy is a problem, but a lot of his accuracy is due to his footwork, throwing on the run, not having his body set the right way when he does that. And that's all stuff that can be corrected. That's Josh Allen type stuff, because Josh Allen had that same problem when he came out of Wyoming into the NFL, and they fixed that for the most part with Josh Allen. I think you can achieve a similar result with Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson is a far more superb athlete than Josh Allen is, and Josh Allen's a hell of an athlete. Doc, VU's always been the feel of a few guys hanging out at the bar talking football. That is exactly what I wanted when we first came up with the the concept for this show, for this kind of stuff. And that's why I wanted to do the Ryno's Rants extra show, because there was so much to talk about that we couldn't put into the regular show, just for the simple fact that it would be a 4-hour show. And this is live every Monday. And I love being able to talk this kind of stuff with you guys. Like you said, Doc, it's like a bunch of us sitting at the table at the bar, shooting the shit, talking Vikings football, having a beer, all that kind of stuff. Ask Anthony Barr about Josh Allen's athleticism. Yeah, absolutely. That game still gives me nightmares. We were 17-point favorites, and they came in here and absolutely boat raced us out of the stadium. But anyway, guys, we've been going about 40 minutes here. About all I've got. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Don't forget, we'll have another Brunswick's Best on Wednesday. Lance looking at those who have war number 6. Going to be a little interesting, but he's got some stuff cooked up for that, so we're good there. Regular studio show Friday night. We're going to do our final thoughts about what we think the Vikings are going to do in the first round pick with their first round pick, and of course mock draft roundup, that kind of stuff. And then going on to next week, Ryno's Rants is going to take a 2-week hiatus because I'm going to be out of town so won't be able to do that. We're gonna record a Wednesday episode of Vikings Uncensored for the night before the draft. Before I leave, we'll do our do a mock draft. We'll do that kind of stuff. We'll talk about final thoughts before the draft, and we'll have the Brunswick's Best stuff coming out as well. But beyond that, just remember, if you guys have not done so, I know most of you guys have, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. Check us out on the normal Friday shows. And of course, remember, coming up on draft night, there's no shortage of options for the first couple of rounds of the draft for live shows to watch instead of listening to the talking heads on ESPN or NFL Network or someplace like that, where you just hear, oily hips and hands in the dirt and that kind of stuff that really means nothing. Check out Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. They're going to be live the first 2 days of the draft, I believe it is. So check those guys out. Also, go check out our buddies Justin and Dave and a cast of thousands over at Minnesota Sports Talk and Purple and Gold for days. They're also going to be doing live shows. So check all those guys out. Watch the shows. Subscribe to their channels too while you're at it, because the Vikings content creation area, we're all one kind of big family on this. And when one succeeds, we all succeed. We're all here to talk about the team that we love. So, give those guys a watch too if you haven't already. But again, thank you everybody for joining tonight. Check out Brunswick's Best Wednesday night, and of course, episode 107 Friday night of the main Vikings Uncensored show. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good rest of your night, good rest of your week, and we will see you Friday.